Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving deep into a piece of barbecue gear that proves looks can be, well, pretty deceiving, and that world-class flavor can come from something as simple as a steel barrel. Yep, we're talking about the Ugly Drum Smoker, or UDS. And look, let's be real, the name totally fits. It's usually this no-frills DIY project built from a humble steel barrel. It's all about function, not form. But can it turn out beautiful barbecue? Oh yeah. The answer is a huge, resounding yes. In fact, we're about to show you how this simple barrel is a secret weapon for pitmasters. One that's capable of producing barbecue that's seriously championship level. Okay, so let's get right into it. The big question, the paradox of the UDS. How can something so, well, basic, have such an amazing reputation, even in the competitive barbecue world? Well, think about it. If you look at most commercial smokers, they can get really expensive and super complex. And the cheaper ones? They often leak heat and smoke all over the place. But the UDS, it's the ultimate DIY champion. It gives you this rock-solid performance without that crazy price tag. It's proof you just don't need a $1,000 setup to make world-class food.
The real genius here is just how simple it is. Seriously, think of it like a perfectly controlled smoke chimney. You've got a fire at the bottom making all that heat and smoke, which then rises in this super stable column. It just envelops the food, cooks it perfectly evenly, and then pops out the top. That natural convection does all the heavy lifting for you.
All right, so let's lift the lid, so to speak, and really see what makes this thing tick. We're going to break down the UDS and understand how just a few simple parts come together to create a true barbecue powerhouse. So it all starts with the drum itself. A standard 55-gallon steel barrel. That's your body, your insulated cooking chamber. But here's the most critical part, and I mean the most critical. It has to be airtight. Why? Well, because any unwanted air leak is like an uncontrolled flame. And when it comes to low and slow cooking, control is absolutely everything.
Down at the bottom, you've got the engine of the whole smoker, the charcoal basket. It's usually made from what's called expanded metal, and trust me, that design is no accident. It's specifically engineered to get perfect, consistent airflow to the coals, and that's the secret to a long, steady fire.
So how do you actually control the temperature? I mean, there are no fancy digital thermostats here. It's all brilliantly analog. The air vents, they're your gas pedal and your brake. You open up the bottom inlets, you're feeding oxygen to the fire, and the heat goes up. You start closing them, you choke it off, and the temp comes down. It is literally that direct and that simple. And this is where you can see how all those simple parts come together to create this amazing system. You've got the drum as the chamber, and remember, that airtight seal is key. You've got the basket for your fuel, where that expanded metal is crucial for airflow. But check out the optimization tips. Using something like ball valves for your air inlets, that gives you incredibly precise control. Even the water pan, you don't need something fancy. A wok or a paella pan works perfectly to diffuse that heat and add moisture. Every single component can be tweaked for perfect results.
Okay, so you've got the hardware down, but the real art of smoking, that's all about managing the fire. And this is especially true for those epic, long, low and slow cooks that barbecue is famous for.
And this really is the biggest challenge for any pitmaster, right? How in the world do you hold a stable, low temperature for 8, 10, maybe even 12 hours straight? Well, the UDS has a pretty ingenious solution for that.
That solution is a legendary technique, and it's called the minion method. Instead of lighting this huge fire that's just going to burn hot and fast, you create a slow, controlled burn. You fill your basket with unlit charcoal, and then you just place a small handful of lit coals right on top. These act like a fuse, slowly, predictably igniting the coals below them. What you get is a long-lasting, low-temperature fire you can count on.
Now, the fuel you choose really matters too. You've got lump charcoal, which burns hot and fast. It's great if you want to do some high-heat searing. But for that low and slow consistency we've been talking about, charcoal briquettes are the absolute go-to. They just burn longer and at a much more stable temperature.
And really, the data here tells the whole story. While lump charcoal might burn out in just a couple of hours, briquettes can give you that marathon burn. We're talking 4, 6, or even more hours. And that kind of stability is exactly what you need for a long cook, like a pork shoulder or a brisket.
Okay, listen up, because this is probably the single most important technique for temperature control. You have to be proactive. Instead of waiting to hit your target temp, you start closing down those vents when you're still about 25 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit below it. This lets you catch the temperature on the way up, and it stops it from overshooting. Make small, patient adjustments, and please, remember the golden rule of barbecue. If you're looking, you ain't cooking. Keep that lid closed.
All right, so we've got the theory, we've got the technique. Now it's time for the payoff. Let's see what kind of incredible food this so-called ugly smoker can actually produce. And here it is. Behold, the legendary bacon bomb. This thing is a true showstopper. You start by creating a literal weave of bacon. Yeah, you heard that right. Then you layer it with seasoned meat, maybe some fillings like sharp cheddar and onions, and then roll it all up into this massive log. After a couple of hours in the smoke, you glaze it, you slice it, and yeah, it's every bit as amazing as it sounds.
But you know, to get perfect results every single time, you've got to cook to temperature, not to time. And this guide shows you the targets for all the classic barbecue cuts. So notice, for things like pulled pork and brisket, you're aiming for that magic number around 203 degrees Fahrenheit or 95 Celsius. Why? Because at that point, all that tough connective tissue has rendered down into juicy, delicious goodness. The meat becomes probe tender, which means your thermometer probe just slides in with almost zero resistance. That's how you know it's perfect.
Whew! We've covered the hardware, the technique, the delicious results. So let's just boil it all down to the core philosophy, the essence of UDS mastery.
You know, mastering the ugly drum smoker really just boils down to these 4 simple rules. Number 1, make sure you have an airtight seal because uncontrolled air is the enemy of good barbecue. 2, you got to master the minion method for that long, low fire. 3, learn to use your airflow as your thermostat. And number 4, and this is a big one, trust your thermometer, not the clock. Your thermometer will never, ever lie.
Ultimately, the ugly drum smoker is so much more than just a cooker. It's a philosophy. It is definitive proof that real ingenuity and a little bit of knowledge will always beat expensive gear. It shows that beautiful, world-class barbecue can come from the most unlikely of places. And that just leaves one final question.